Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Hey, Blink 182 with Mark, Tom, and Travis are back. I keep wanting to say Mike, Tom, and Yuri, but that's a different band. The guys released Edging, and I gotta say, it felt a little uninspired to me, but after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, I have not been the biggest fan of Blink 182's material, but I will for sure be checking out the band's new record when it drops. Why talk about Blink 182 at all? Well, apparently it's Pop Punk Week on As the Story Grows with two new up-and-coming pop punk bands that you want on your radar. Today we welcome HOLYFANGS vocalist Giuliano Messina. HOLYFANGS self-released their debut EP back in July. A Bandcamp link is in the show notes. Make sure you check it out. Giuliano talks about growing up in New Jersey and the early 2000s emo and punk boom, moving to the West Coast, why pop punk still matters, and more. This was a super fun chat, and I hope everyone enjoys getting to know Giuliano Messina from HOLYFANGS.
Head under water, this is it. 'Cause I held my breath for 30 years. So what's 30 more? To the universe expanding infinitely or nothing. So here's my answer, what's the point? 'Cause I rule my shadow in the light. My skin is on borrowed time.
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm like the tail end of like a gnarly fever this week. So
Oh, no.
yeah, yesterday was like, oh, I'm not gonna die, and today is like, well, I'm okay. Like it's fine.
Oh, man. Not
Yeah.
COVID, though, right?
No, thankfully not COVID. I mean,
Thank God.
as far as I mean, it's like, the 10th strain that they don't know how to check for yet, but
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
that's been my week.
Oh, good times. Good times. Oh man, I'm glad you're feeling better. Up for this.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, man. Friday morning, let's do this. So yeah, I'm good.
Oh yeah, it's morning out there. Awesome.
Yeah, bright and early at 11.
Oh man, it's 2 out here. I slept like shit last night, and I was up at 5. So yeah,
Nice. That's always good to do.
it's great. Oh man, awesome. So you're out in California. Is that where you grew up?
No. I've only been here like a year and a half. I grew up in Jersey, actually,
Oh, neat.
on the East Coast. So I was there, most of my life. Did a couple years in Austin, and then I was kind of like, nah, fuck that. I want to go to LA. And so here I am.
North Jersey or South Jersey?
Central Jersey.
Central. Okay.
Does that count?
Like what? Like
Depends on who you're
Trenton?
talking to. Like I don't know if you knew Jersey well. Did like the New Brunswick area
Okay.
where there's Rutgers University, and it's kind of
Yeah.
northish, but
Yeah.
so we're different.
Yeah. I lived in Philadelphia for 6 years, so like South Jersey was people
That's like,
from South Jersey would be like, "Hey, we're from Philly," and I'd be like, "No, you're not." Fuck you.
Yeah, but nobody knows all those little towns. You gotta like.
Right.
You have to-
Nobody's like,
you can't
"I'm from
think of
Cherry
it.
Hill," right? Like,
Yeah, no. after like 20 years, you're like, I'm from Philly.
right. Well,
That's where I'm from.
same thing. I live in Maryland, and I'm just like, it's DC because
It's DC.
people are like, "Is that a state?" And I'm like, "Yep, Maryland's a state." So I get it, even though I've met
Yeah.
those people up in Jersey. That's awesome. What was growing up like for you?
I was a suburbs kid, so like, I guess when you're growing up, you don't really know any difference. You're just like, okay, well, I live in a house with other houses, and things are kind of calm. You kind of go to school, skateboard after school, and do your homework and shit, and nothing crazy happens. So it was kind of a normal. I don't know, but
Yeah.
normal East Coast upbringing, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You mentioned skateboarding. How does skateboarding relate to your love for music?
Oh, man, I think I kind of got into both around the same time at like 13 years old. I actually remember like being outside my middle school skateboarding, and I found a random Dookie CD on the ground, and I was like, okay, this is, like I grabbed my CD, like my CD Walkman, whatever the hell it was called. Popped in, I was like, what the fuck is this? And so that was like, they just kind of like grew with me at the same time. I just happened to discover both. And so it's always been like, two things I love to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
They're so connected to each other, music and skateboarding, especially like punk rock and skateboarding, like how influential like the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games were to like music fandom and people discovering like punk.
Oh no, totally. Like that Goldfinger song Superman is like the anthem to my teenage years, because I heard it 1,000 times playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I was like, who the hell are these guys? So absolutely, they're like completely intertwined.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's rad. When did you start playing guitar? Or any instrument, I guess.
I mean, well, I was gonna say like I'm gonna skip over to like playing saxophone at age 9 or whatever. Right. But that was just like like you play something because you're supposed to do something after school or whatever. But yeah, I mean, still like 13, 14, I remember I got a Strat, like a low end Strat, and one of those 10-watt amps, and just started playing like Green Day, all that super easy stuff, like single note runs and all that. So yeah, like everything just kind of blew up at 13, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
It's I remember like, what was the song? I think it was When I Come Around, just like randomly coming across that chord progression, being like, oh, that's very easy to play. And then you're just like, that. Oh, I can play all the songs on the CD.
It was you're like, these guys are professional. I can do this like within a day. Like this is possible. I can do this.
Yeah.
I did that. I did Basket Case a whole lot. That like doesn't get old for like a year or two. So yeah. Totally related.
Yeah. It's like, okay, these 4 chords, and you just change where you play them, and that's every song.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, music is easy.
The same square, you just play the same square over and over on different places on the fretboard. Oh man. Yeah, that's how I learned to play punk rock.
I mean, that's correct, right?
Yeah. At what point did you start playing in bands and trying to form your own band?
Man, I would say like right when high school started, like 14, 15, and a couple friends that you start like as a 3-piece because that's all like a kid happens to play drums and someone just plays bass because someone has to play bass. And so I would, just like throughout high school, I was always with, 1 or 2 different, of course, like small time or whatever, just like group of kids playing music. Like you would like, it was like the earliest days of the internet. So you'd put your stuff online and like some dude in God knows where would just like rip you apart. You'd be like, oh, I feel like complete shit now. And I'm a 14-year-old kid. Yeah. So it was tough. But and it was always like, from 14 onward, trying to play local gigs and like little battle of the band stuffs. And yeah, that was the way to go.
What was the scene like for you locally? Was there something pretty local to where you lived, or were you going up to New York or down to Philly?
I mean, there were a few venues like strewn around Jersey. There was like the one huge one that we never got to play. That was like Starland Ballroom. That was this big like 5,000 person venue that you're like one day there. But there were a few around Jersey. It was tough to get into New York and Philly with like before we had our licenses and all that.
Right.
But then after we were able to do that, then it would, we kind of be able to go down to Philly or Trenton and do some one-offs in a basement here or there, New Brunswick, all that stuff. Yeah. So, but it was always pretty local. There was always something somewhere in Jersey, a little club here or there.
Yeah. What years were that?
That was, I would say maybe like 02, 03 to like 06 was when I graduated high school.
Okay.
So that was when like
All the New
Yeah.
Jersey shit was popping off.
all the New Jersey, but like it was New Jersey. It was a lot of like the underground screamo stuff.
Mhm.
And then the stuff that I actually didn't know at the time, like Ladderman and Iron Sheik were coming up, but I actually still hadn't heard about them. So I'm always kicking myself for like finding those bands too late. But yeah. All like stuff like Thursday was coming up, and all those types of bands were always playing like New Brunswick basement shows and everything. And so that was like the early years was less punk, and more kind of like, well, everyone's playing this like screamo stuff. Let's try to get some riffy screamo stuff going on. And when you're like 14, you can't, but
Right.
you try your best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What led you from Jersey out to Austin?
So actually, I always wanted to go to LA like for the longest time. And my ex at the time, she liked Austin. And at the end of the day, I was kind of like, I can't fucking afford LA. No one can afford LA, but we can afford to like jump. Cause I've always been like a little bit risk averse. So I was like, I'm not going to go like be homeless immediately in LA. That's not my thing. So, we tried Austin instead. It's a cool music city.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's way more condensed than out here. I mean, there's a lot of shit to do, a lot of bars. But yeah, that was the reason why I was like, this is kind of like second runner up, and I can afford to live out here. And I kind of wanted to get away from the snow and all that. So it was like, it was going to be something more south and more west. Definitely. So that was the winner.
You don't like the winter?
Man, dude, I like the last winter in Jersey, I had this dinky little like 98 or 99 Corolla, and the thing got stuck. I remember like dropping off a curb, and the car got stuck in the snow, like perpendicular to the way that traffic was moving, and I couldn't get out. And at that point I was like, I'm done. I was just stuck here staring at traffic coming at me. I'm done.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I've never been a cold weather person, so I got out.
Man.
Yeah.
That's fair. Was it tougher to kind of form bands and find a scene in Austin, even though it is more of a music hub than New Jersey? Like, was it just like there's so much that it makes it harder to get connected and break out, or just easier?
No, Austin was weird because, well, Austin, they call themselves like music capital and all that, and they do a lot of music. But if you try to categorize like what they have, the biggest pool is like solo country cover bands, playing, playing bars just to get people in drinking and everything. So they're actually, there was a couple like punk venues or places that would play more alternative music and whatnot, but it was not, I would say it definitely wasn't like as flooded as I imagined it would be. With different kinds of musicians. It was a little bit monotonous. I mean, you had to look around. It was possible I found people, but it was never like the smooth sailing, that you might imagine. And especially like the last like decade, Austin's really, it's flipped a bit now. It's a lot more of a tech city. So a lot fewer people in like the art scene or like with those types of passions. And so it's been, it's a bit tough out there.
Yeah. I feel like even South by has changed, where it's like not as music focused as it once was. It's like there's so much other stuff going on that like music has been decentralized at that.
No, there's so many like insane corporate events where you need like a badge to get in, your company pays for your badge.
Yeah.
And it's all just kind of like networking stuff. So it's totally not what I mean. I don't want to be the kind of guy that's like, oh, back in my day, because I wasn't even there. But definitely, the stories you hear, you're like, yeah, the priorities have changed there, which it's whatever.
Yeah. But then you finally bit the bullet. Did you have work out in LA, or were you just like, I have to go out to LA to try to make this music thing work?
No, I've never.
I mean, make it work, right?
Yeah, no matter what, right? So I actually got laid off from COVID, then I was like, oh, cool. Now's a good chance for me to like, I'm not tied down to anything out here. So I just I started like to actually like, still like kind of risk averse. started applying to jobs out in LA. And then after a few months, somebody took a bite. So I was like, okay, cool. I got everything lined up, ready to go. And then once I got here, immediately I was like, okay, I'm looking for bandmates. And you know, it's not going to be like, I'm not dumping my whole fucking life into touring and doing this and that, but this is going to be like the number one hobby, the number one passion.
Yeah.
And I just want people, I wanted to find people like that as well, where, they love it and they're not gonna, I don't know, man. It's just that they don't feel the pressure of also having to do this like touring lifestyle or whatever. They just have this love for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. How did HOLYFANGS get started?
Man, HOLYFANGS. So HOLYFANGS is like a pure child of Craigslist. Like as soon as I got here, I was like, looking for this, and this. I was playing music with another guy who we ended up meeting, the HOLYFANGS drummer Mike, and that actually like didn't work out at first because the other guy didn't like Mike and blah blah blah. But Mike and I got along really well. So like a couple months later, I was like, actually, I'm done with you, but can I get Mike's number? And but I mean, all four of us, it's all just been kind of like Craigslist connections, and just like, you contact somebody, go out for a drink, get a feel for them, see like what they're like as a person. Because I feel like that's ultimately like the most of it is if this is someone that you're sharing your passion, your hobby with. They don't have to be crazy virtuosos, but you have to dig them as people. So that was really all it was, man. Craigslist and sitting down having a beer with people.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where'd the name come from?
Thin air. I mean, it was. I've always been like, I really like phrases and lines and lyrics that like kind of sound a little contradictory maybe, or that like make you kind of stop and go, wait, what? And so that was just like one of the names in a list of ideas that we had. And we kind of cycled through a bunch of different names, came back, and we just like eventually came back to like HOLYFANG with no S. And then we're like, no, that's kind of sounds wonky. So just add an S on the end. But it wasn't, I think it was just kind of me being like, I want something that's like, kind of sounds a little contradictory on the surface that's something that you can't Google and you'll have it already exist in 1,000 places as, something else someone else already thought of. Yeah. So, yeah. Because that's the biggest thing nowadays is like, if if I call my band The Germs, it'll never work out. You'll never find us.
Right.
You gotta be trying to be somewhat unique. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep a list on my phone of like, anytime I hear something and I go, that's a good band name, I just write it down because you never know. You never know, man. That could be the one. That could be. There's really stupid shit on my phone. Why punk rock? Why this like pop punk sound? Like, I mean, it's crazy that like the boom happened like 2 decades ago, but like people are still drawn to it and like still playing this music that gets so associated with like teenage angst. Dude, man, that's a great question. I mean, even for me, like for me, like 2 decades ago, I guess, 2 decades ago, like when I first got into music, like I said, like I found the Dookie album. One of my buddies brought me to his house and showed me an Anti-Flag album. I randomly bought like a Jawbreaker CD at the store once. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it just like hit me at when something hits you at the right time when you're a teenager, there's like, that just becomes a part of you. And I've always kind of like I've evolved a little bit in and out of different types of punk. Like I was into like folk punk for a while, and everyone goes through like their Dead Kennedys phase and whatever. And I think ultimately what happens with me is the way like the punk that I like to listen to and that I like to write, it's not necessarily as like, it's not as thrashy. It's a little bit cleaner. And so you just end up, I feel like I'm able to like
sense and also give a lot more of like a visceral emotion that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, but it doesn't have to be as like on the surface as like street punk, as like GBH or something like that, where that's like, okay, yeah, they're screaming and they're angry, which is, it's good in its own right, but it's not like how I want to express, you know, myself through music.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always been like I've had people, like girlfriends who would never ask me, like, you know, you always listen to this. I'm like, yeah, because like, it just makes me like feel some sort of way. It like triggers the neurons in my brain to like fire in a different way than like some other type of music. No, I don't want to like bash the music because other people like that for probably the same reason. But like for me, it just clicks, where if I hear like an amazing melody in punk, like if I hear some crazy NoFX melody, my brain just like, you know, fires off. I'm like, wow, that really like, that touches me like really deeply. And I don't even have the vocabulary to describe it, but it's just like a super internal, all encompassing feeling. And I've always wanted to be able to like recreate that outwardly. So that's why I try to do it now.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll be 38. I still have the MXPX Life in General cassette tape that I used to skateboard to when I was 15. So, and I still put that on, and I'm like, yeah, these songs still rule. And anytime MXPX comes to town, I'm gonna be there, and relive that every moment, because like
they do rule.
It still works. Like, punk still works. So simple, yet I don't know. Yeah, it's great. So. You guys put this EP out end of July. Were there any lyrical themes you were going for when you wrote this?
I think like what I've come to realize about myself when I write the lyrics is kind of like when I moved away from Jersey, I kind of found this this like direction where I tend to think more like nostalgically, a little bit of like what if, a little bit of regret, and I kind of like end up using those themes to to throw lyrics down on paper, and it just like whatever comes out. But that's really like, I feel like has ended up being like, I've always been searching, you know, growing up, you were searching for like your voice and how to write stuff, and once I moved, I was like, oh, this idea of like nostalgia of the past, of like not losing yourself, not losing other people, you know, how could things have gone differently? Not necessarily good or bad, just differently.
Yeah.
Because there's just stuff that you'll never know. So it's like, you can kind of get overly pensive about it. And it's like, in normal life, it's not necessarily like beneficial to dwell on that stuff. But like, I feel like, and I don't necessarily, but with music, I'm able to just kind of like sit with that emotion and use that to make something. So I feel like lyrically, a lot of the music comes from like a nostalgic place that I'm trying to like convey.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Do you feel like that fits with the music more that you're writing? Do you think that like there's some weird like in your brain like tandem, like this is the music I'm playing, so these are the lyrics that go with that fit best with that sound?
Kinda. I mean, I try. I've never been like a guy who's like, hey, I want to write like 13 like pop punk love songs,
right,
and throw it out, right? So I know like I'm not writing like major key songs where it would obviously be like, oh, it has to be like something happy and lighthearted. Like I try to be like, try to dip my toes into a little bit of like the music theory. We're like, oh, I can put a minor chord here, like such and such seventh chord, and it like lends itself to this emotion. I don't know like how the fuck composers do it in like, you know, from the 1700s, how they use music that way to just hit you with the right emotion.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like there's at least some kind of parallel where like I would know if I was like writing a sad song with happy music, and it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So I try to stray away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the rest of this year look like for you guys?
Oh man. I think so. This first EP was 4 songs. We definitely have, a couple more lined up. I think the plan is kind of like, not this year, but in general, to get a little handful of EPs out. That way to just keep momentum going. So I think the rest of this year kind of feels like getting that second EP either done or almost done. And, we've been kind of developing some band friendships. We had some shows from some bands that went well. And so, it would just be awesome to keep that momentum up. And yeah, like towards the end of the year to have that a second EP with, songs that just show a bit, that show like more development, than like the next batch of 4 songs that we wrote. This is how they've kind of developed from the first 4. So we'll see. But the year's coming up quick.
Yeah.
At an insane rate.
It sure is. Somebody posted today. Somebody was like 100 days till Christmas, and I was like, "Shut up!
No.
Don't do that! Don't do that!" Here's a fun new question I've been asking people. What's been helping you get through your days recently? Music, TV, books, movies. What are you enjoying, man?
What am I enjoying? Well, like I said, like the last week has been brutal. Mm-hmm. I was just like kind of off a fever, and I was just like. I was watching, I'm going to sound like a kid now. I was watching a Junior Bake Off, that like British Bake Off show.
Okay.
That got me through like a day or two. But other than that, man, it's been a slow week. A little bit listening to a little bit more of a sorority noise lately. They always hit I would go through like these like ups and down patches with them. They're always fucking great.
Yeah. So
like that's gotten me through a little bit of like laying in bed sweating, like, dealing with shit. So it's been those guys. I'm like itching to play again. I've just like haven't had the heart the last few days, but I gotta get back at it, of course. But I got them, and I got my dogs are like literally keeping me alive because they're just like, get up. It's time. You have to get out of bed. So they're always the third factor. For me personally, I've been super stoked. I know nobody listening like knows the members of the band, but like they've been so like crazy fucking supportive when it comes to like writing music together and like how they share ideas, and like everyone's just gung ho, and they just like the other band members, like they just make me excited to play music. And it's just like, I don't know, like, it's tough to tell that in someone's face, maybe, but it's been an amazing fucking experience, and I'm like so happy that we're on the same train, and Other than that, we're the EP 1 is on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Bandcamp. So we're around. We're trying to get around, trying to get some shows. We'll see what happens.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never look back. It's wild and fantastic. All together at full power, we're so much better. What's that word I'm missing? If you help me, I'll